Welcome to this presentation about the Airspace Modernisation program. This presentation has been updated to include answers to questions that have been submitted to us about the Airspace Modernisation program. It runs for about 15 minutes. We hope you find it useful.
Hello everyone, my name's Peter Bloom. I moved from customer service enhancement at the beginning of the year to ATM change support. And I've been on the National E journey since its inception in late 2018. So I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to brief you on this change. So today I'm going to talk about the what, the why and the how for National E. So on the 21st of May, Class E nationally will be lowered to flight level 125 from the previous level of flight level 180. This change has little impact on the J curve, that is the areas of the East Coast surveillance coverage, starting from Cairns all the way down to the coast, around to Adelaide, and then Perth and Darwin. So this is an extract from the Northern en route chart, the low chart. So I'll discuss what will not change. The circled area there from Cairns down to Brisbane, the blue areas within the J curve represent Class Charlie, where the base lower limit is flight level 125, and this does not change. The Class E in the J curve, that is the salmon colour, that represents Class E with a lower limit of 8,500 feet. This also does not change. So what will change? The colours in the white areas of that low chart will become flight level 125, lowered from flight level 180. The Broome and Karratha steps, highlighted in red, will disappear because they and the surrounding airspace will all become flight level 125. The pre-change E steps are from 75 DME to 60 DME at flight level 145. And this is the southern portion of the en route chart. Once again, the J curve from Brisbane to Sydney and Melbourne will not change. There's no change to the step at around Adelaide, 90 DME to 65 DME, and that's shown in the salmon colour. Class E is currently 8,500 feet, and that does not change. All the surrounding white areas on that chart, of course, will change to flight level 125. As you can see, Ayers Rock is in the top left-hand corner, which will be discussed later on in this briefing. This is an extract from the en route chart low. There are 3 key corridors currently at flight level 125, and they're shown in salmon and highlighted in the left-hand image. So the top circle is the corridor of flight level 125 out of Sydney up to Dubbo. The middle circle is the northwest of Melbourne up to Mildura, and then the lower circle is the area from Melbourne to Tasmania across Bass Strait. While the flight level in these corridors will not change, the surrounding airspace will be lowered to flight level 125, so those corridors will disappear on the new charts. So for example, pre-change, if you were flying out of Tasmania northbound towards Sydney, you'll transit out of the E corridor into G airspace, and post the change on the 21st of May, if you were above flight level 125 in controlled airspace, you will remain in Class E all the way. Currently in Australia, we have more than 50 ADSB site locations to facilitate providing Class E at lower levels. And this image is available on our website at the address shown and also via Google search. These illustrations show an approximation of where the ADSB coverage extends at 5,000 feet, and that's the left-hand diagram, and 10,000 feet on the right-hand diagram. Typically, the surveillance coverage aligns with Air Services VHF coverage. Where there is no ADSB coverage, it tends to be in very remote areas. Where there are gaps, air traffic control will provide separation using procedural standards, as is the case pre-change. These images are also available on Air Services website. We have been asked about the potential for delays in accessing Class E airspace once it's lowered. We have conducted modelling in our air traffic control simulators, and the delay is unlikely even in busy areas such as the Pilbara, also known as the Iron Triangle. However, it can occur today, so we cannot guarantee that it will never happen. So I'd like to now hand over to Dominic Keating, who will talk about the Class E Airspace Trial at Ayers Rock. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm the line leader for Central Group. Central Group are responsible for the area around Ayers Rock, and as the name depicts, most of Central Australia, particularly in that part that pertains to the Southern Flight Data region. I've worked for Air Services and its predecessors for the 37 years, and as discussed, currently the line leader for Central Group. I'm here to talk about the Airspace Trial that will be happening on the 21st of May above Ayers Rock. So the start of a trial of lowering Class E airspace and steps over a non-towered aerodrome. We wanted to find out whether industry thinks that having Class E airspace in which IFR aircraft receive separation services is an improvement over Class G airspace where all aircraft self-separate, and whether there is a safety benefit. Ayers Rock was selected because it is a relatively busy airport with no control tower and Class G airspace. The concept is that IFR remain in Class E airspace down to 5,500 feet and receive an ATC separation service with other IFR aircraft. The surveillance capability is utilised. There is continued airspace access for VFR aircraft, and VFR aircraft self-separate in Class E and Class G airspace. So we recognise that traffic levels are currently very low with the Ayers Rock Resort closed. Air Services will consider whether sufficient data has been captured during the trial to be able to draw conclusions about the relative success. If the data is insufficient, Air Services will work with CASA to determine an acceptable process. At present, we cannot state definitely if it is to be a 12-month or a 12-month plus X month trial due to uncertainty about traffic volumes. The trial assessment will be based on 3 elements. First one is a review of all reportable occurrences. The second is external stakeholder feedback, and the third source of data is internal stakeholder feedback. And CASA approval is required for the change to be made permanent. So the first source of data was from reportable occurrences. Reportable occurrences defined in Air Services Safety Management System and in legislation such as the ATSB Act, and include breakdowns of coordination, breakdowns of separation standards, loss of separation assurance, system errors or failures, operational deviations, communication issues, and any clearance issues. And we will review any occurrence reports received by CASA. Any occurrences will be assessed to determine to what extent the design and operation of the Class E steps at Ayers Rock contributed to the occurrence, and the assessment will also explore whether changes to the design or operating procedures in the airspace would be likely to mitigate the risk of similar occurrences taking place. Industry feedback will be open at both 6 and 11 months after the trial or commencement of the trial via the Engage Air Services website below. Also see the Aeronautical Information Circular H26 of 2020, and we do encourage you to submit your feedback. Internal feedback will come both on a day-to-day basis as well as through more formal channels. I'll now give you a brief update on what will actually change, highlighting the difference between Class E and Class G airspace. Biggest change is IFR to IFR and Class E airspace are separated from each other. What won't change is the other services to the other types of flights in Class E. It's a similar operation to Class G airspace. For IFR to VFR, where practicable means we will provide traffic information about known traffic. How do we know about it? The traffic will have to have an ADS transponder for you to be visible to our surveillance screen. Without an ADS-B transponder, we won't be able to see you, so we cannot provide traffic about you to anybody. Surveillance Information Service, what is that? So it's a service that's available on request to VFR flights in Class E and Class G airspace within ATS surveillance system coverage and subject to ATC workload. It's available to improve situational awareness and assist pilots in avoiding collisions with other aircraft. A pilot wishing to receive the service must be in direct VHF communications with ATC and equipped with either a serviceable SSR transponder or ADS-B transmitter. For the purpose of the Ayers Rock trial, the requirement is for the ADS-B transmitter. VFR pilots receiving a surveillance information service will be provided with traffic information and, upon request, position or navigation information. All information is advisory in nature and the pilot remains responsible for the safe operation of the aircraft. Terrain clearance, aircraft-to-aircraft separation and obtaining clearances into controlled airspace remain pilot responsibilities. VFR flights operating in Class E airspace. A clearance to enter Class E for VFR aircraft is not required. VFR flights entering and operating in the Class E airspace should avoid published IFR routes where possible, monitor the appropriate Class E frequency and announce if in potential conflict, take appropriate action to avoid potential conflict and avoid IFR holding patterns. Special VFR is not permitted in Class E airspace. What if I can't avoid IFR routes? The instruction is to avoid IFR routes where practicable. We encourage you to keep clear of IFR routes when you can. If you need to cross an IFR route, use airmanship as per AIP. Listen out for traffic, broadcast your position and level, broadcast intention to cross route, give an all stations call. The key is to have an awareness of where the IFR routes and holding patterns are. So some points to remember. IFR pickup, VFR climb and descent, and VFR on top procedures are available in Class E airspace. They've been around for a long time, but with very limited uptake. They're available to provide more flexibility to IFR flights in VMC. However, there is a reduction in service. It is important to note that separation is not provided when conducting these procedures. We have been asked whether IFR aircraft departing Ayers Rock can expect a clearance on the ground or airborne. This will depend on the traffic disposition at the time. Airways clearances may be provided while on the ground, or pilots may be advised to expect clearance on departure once identified. During times of significant traffic volume at Ayers Rock, pilots may be advised clearances are not available and to wait for clearance advice. If there is going to be a significant delay, controllers will advise the extent of delay where possible and come back to you as soon as a clearance is available. If you would like further information about the lowering of Class E or the Ayers Rock trial, please see these web pages or email us directly at stakeholder@airservicesaustralia.com. Thank you for listening.